Hmm. Happy New Year's, everyone, and welcome to this first 2024 edition of the AARP Massachusetts Fraud Talk Tuesday. We're here on the second Tuesday of each month from 12 to 12:30, thereabouts, where we discuss a different scam and how you can protect yourself and your family from becoming a victim. First off, let me apologize for the snafu we had a few moments back. Your technology is great, except when it doesn't work, and we're having a little bit of a problem this morning. My name is Jim Alden, volunteer with AARP in Massachusetts, and our guest today is Lenore Klein, also a volunteer with AARP Massachusetts Speakers Bureau. And today we're going to talk about one of the most heartbreaking scams out there, the romance scam. However, it doesn't always start with looking for some romance. It can start by looking for friendship or companionship. And the information in today's Fraud Talk Tuesday will provide information on how the scam works, prevention techniques, red flags to watch out for, what to do if the person does not believe they are being scammed, and victim support help. And at the end, we'll send you a recording of today's presentation and a list of links for resources. So, Lenore, romance scams, where do you want to start?
Well, thanks, Jim, and welcome everyone to today's Fraud Talk Tuesday. The romance scam, you're right, Jim, it's the most heartbreaking of all the scams. Not only does the person lose money, but they lose what they believe is friendship and trust. It also takes a toll on someone's emotions and their health. Let's begin by explaining what it is and who is most often targeted. Adults of all ages are going online in hopes of finding love or companionship, but seeking romance online can have a major downside. Cyberspace is full of scammers eager to take advantage of lonely hearts or those experiencing loneliness or isolation, and the problem is growing. The con typically works something like this. You post a dating profile and up pops a promising match, good-looking, smart, funny, and personable. The supposed suitors might also reach out on social media. More than a third of people who lost money to a romance scam in 2021 reported that it started on Facebook or Instagram. Scammers use pictures and identities to lure someone into a romantic relationship or friendship. One of the immediate warning signs is that the potential mate claims to live in another part of the country or to be abroad for business or military deployment. But he or she seems smitten and eager to get to know you better and suggests you move your relationship to a private channel like email or chat app. An example of that would be the Google Chat or WhatsApp. That's a real red flag. Over weeks or months, you feel yourself growing closer. You make plans to meet in person, but your new love always has something that comes up. That's another warning sign it's a scam. Or you get an urgent request. There's an emergency, a medical problem, perhaps a business crisis. And your online companion needs you to send money fast, usually via gift cards, prepaid debit cards, cryptocurrency, or a bank or wire transfer. And they always promise to pay it back, but that will never happen. Instead, they will keep asking for more until you realize it's a scam and cut them off.
Well, that's interesting. Are these romance scams, are they tied to any other type of fraud?
Yes, definitely. Romance scams can overlap and evolve into other forms of fraud. For example, international criminal gangs use dating sites to recruit unwitting money mules, to launder ill-gotten gains through their bank accounts or other means. And scammers are increasingly luring supposed sweethearts into fraudulent cryptocurrency investments. If you ever hear a potential mate say, "Oh, I've got a great investment opportunity," run the other way. The older the target, the heavier the financial toll. The median individual loss from a romance scam for people over 70 was over $9,000 in 2021, according to the Federal Trade Commission, compared to 2,400 across all age groups. This is only what's reported. Because of shame or embarrassment, many of those victimized don't report it. Calls into the AARP Fraud Watch helpline have reported people losing tens of thousands of dollars. That's not uncommon. I want to tell you a true story related to the types of fraud we've just been talking about, the money mule occurrence. There's a case of a woman, Denise, a 55-year-old divorcee from California, met a man on Zoosk, a dating website, during the height of the pandemic. He described himself as a kind man who wanted a long-term relationship. He said he would love her and care for her and pledged that her family was his family. Then he sent her a glass keepsake engraved with their names and the words, "My better half." Though he said he lived nearby, he and Denise never met, and he made excuses like the coronavirus lockdowns, a sudden illness, a hospitalization, or a work assignment in another state. He said he was a construction engineer and had projects around the world. Mostly the two texted. Sometimes they chatted by phone. A few times during their 6-month so-called relationship, he sent flowers. Red flags started to emerge, especially since they had never met face-to-face, and then he asked her to buy him pricey Google Play gift cards. Ultimately, he ripped her off for about $5,000 and never repaid it. After she gave him access to her checking account, bit by bit, she unknowingly helped him launder about $200,000 in ill-gotten gains from criminal activity, including unemployment fraud. In October, when she was down to $18 in her checking account, he filched $10, then ghosted her. Denise reported him to the FBI's Internet Crime Complaint Center and provided AARP with a copy of her complaint. She also discussed her ordeal with AARP's Fraud Watch Network helpline, asking that only her first name be used for the story. At one point, breaking down in tears, she said, "It still haunts me. I have dating PTSD. The worst part, first and foremost, was illegal activity in my name." Unfortunately, Denise was an example of a money mule and an unwitting accomplice.
Well, that's interesting. I actually have a story. A friend of mine from high school recently got divorced down here in the South Shore, and his wife was unwittingly pulled in by one of these romance scams, and she lost $30,000. She never met the person, and I took off and left her devastated. So it happens. It's always close to home. Lenore, what if somebody decides to use a dating app and wants to respond to a friend request? There must be some steps that they can use to prevent being victimized. What are those?
Absolutely. Here are some things you should do to stay safe, and also keeping your loved ones, your parents, other family members, even your children. You remember when we were growing up, our parents said, well, don't talk to strangers, warning us of stranger danger. Well, we can do the same for our parents and our loved ones. Let's talk about our parents first. We can help them do a privacy check on Facebook and other social media accounts. Simply on Facebook, go into settings, and it will take you through a checklist of ways to protect your account. You can also put a sticky note near your parents' device that reminds them to never accept a friend request from anyone they do not know. I think that's great, a great tip for any of us to avoid romance scams. Also, have a conversation with your parents and loved ones about adding you as a trusted contact. No one wants to ever think they might be a victim of exploitation, but it happens. A trusted contact person is a person that you authorize your brokerage firm to contact in limited circumstances. Let's say that your broker has trouble reaching you or has a reasonable belief that your account may be exposed to possible financial exploitation.
I never thought of that. Lenore, what are some of the other tips out there for someone thinking about using a dating app?
Well, I would, we're very excited that scammers really prey on our emotions. They call it getting us under the ether. If we're vulnerable, particularly for romance scams, there might be loneliness, isolation. You're so elated to get into that somebody might be interested in you. But I would take it slowly. I would ask the potential partner a lot of questions and watch for inconsistencies that might reveal an imposter. Talk to friends and family about a new love interest and pay attention if they have concerns. Check an online suitor's profile photo using Google's image search. You can take that picture, put it into a search engine, and if the same picture shows up elsewhere with a different name, that's a sign the scammer may have stolen it. That happened with Denise. She ultimately helped out the authorities with reporting this scammer. She saw his profile picture on another dating app with a different name. That was a sure sign. Be wary of flirtatious and overly complimentary emails. Paste the text into a search engine and see whether the same words show up on websites devoted to exposing romance scams. Cut off contact immediately if you begin to suspect that the individual may be a swindler. Notify the dating app or the maker of the dating app where you met the scammer.
Lenore, is it safer for us? Well, who is it safer for to make the first contact on a dating site?
Well, if we initiate the contact, that's not always the safest thing, because scammers flood dating websites with fake profiles and wait for victims to come to them. So I would limit the amount of personal information you provide in a dating profile or to someone you've chatted with online. Scammers can exploit details like even your last name and where you work. They can use that to help you commit identity theft, or for them to commit identity theft. When you're in the middle of building a relationship, be careful you don't drop your guard and let your emotions take over. And again, this is what scammers, they prey upon, getting us in an emotional state. Never share intimate photos to an online acquaintance. They can end up being used for sexploitation. And finally, don't send cash, cryptocurrency, or gift cards, or put money on a reloadable debit card for somebody you've only interacted with online. You'll never get it back. This also includes payment apps. I know a lot of people are using Venmo, Zelle, or Cash App. So don't put any money on those sites for a potential scammer until you find out more about them.
Hey, Jim and Lenore, before we go on, just a reminder for folks, if they have any questions, they can put them down into the Q&A at the bottom and we'll address those at the end.
Right. I suppose one of the things is we don't want to overshare any too much personal information, especially when starting out a new relationship. Lenore, I've heard that convincing someone that they're being victimized by a romance scam is very difficult. What do you do if the person does not believe they are being scammed?
Well, I would start by recruiting allies, family members, perhaps a religious leader, non-emergency police, or some neighbors, people they respect. It may take a number of conversations to be patient, but remember, this is emotional for them. It may cause them to feel ashamed, embarrassed, and feel a loss of trust. Seek family counseling. Try writing a note to the person about how you feel. And I would call the AARP Fraud Watch helpline and ask for advice. We have that number as well as a lot of other important resources on, at the end of the discussion.
Okay. I think it's worth repeating the red flags that say this is a scam. Absolutely.
A new romantic interest sends a picture that looks more like a model from a fashion magazine than an ordinary snapshot. The person quickly wants to leave the dating website and communicate through email or instant messaging. They lavish with attention. Swindlers often inundate prospective marks with texts, emails, and phone calls to draw them in. Remember that Google search for text and for images. They repeatedly promise to meet in person, but they always come up with an excuse. They make a sudden request for money to deal with an emergency or surefire investment. And, if you ask questions, I would say definitely, if you feel that you are embarrassed to ask questions, don't feel that way. Ask a number of questions of the person directing you to move money, and they refuse to answer. So an example in the story of Denise, she challenged her love interest about the withdrawals from the checking account, and a fight erupted. And he accused her of being insensitive and untrusting.
Wow, he was taking money out of her account. Our goal today is to provide information on how to avoid scams, but if someone has been victimized, does AARP offer any support in that area?
Absolutely. We have online support groups for victims of any type of scam. For many fraud victims, the financial toll is only part of the story. Nearly 2 in 3 victims suffer a significant health or emotional impact. So it isn't just the the emotions that get involved, but it has an impact on our well-being. This is according to research by the FINRA Investor Education Foundation. To address this growing need for support groups, AARP Fraud Watch Network and Volunteers of America have developed a free program to provide emotional support for people affected by fraud. The AARP VOA, it's called REST, the acronym of the program. It stands for Resilience, Strength, and Time. Features small groups led by trained peer facilitators. And in these are online, hour-long groups. People can discuss their situations, what's happened to them, try to reestablish trust, and build back their resilience despite a difficult and painful occurrence. Discussions are confidential, and you're welcome to attend one session or several. It's your choice. Family members are also invited to participate, and there will be a link to the slides to sign up for a virtual session.
Okay. What about reporting a romance scam? Should we, to who do we report these?
Well, remember the story of Denise. She went to the FBI's Internet Crimes Complaint Center. That is IC3.gov, the Federal Trade Commission, FTC.gov, the AARP Fraud Watch Network helpline, which is 877-908-3360, and then a non-emergency police. And you will be sent all of these resources, and including videos to watch on romance scams.
Thank you, Lenore, for this tremendous information. This scam can be very emotionally charged, so please share the recording and the resource slides with family and friends. And this information, awareness, and education that is our best defense to avoid scams. And as we get ready for tax season, tune in next month on the second Tuesday, which is February 13th, when we discuss tax preparation scams and tax identity theft.
And we have
Thanks.
a question here or a comment here. It says, don't banks and credit unions get suspicious or check if large amounts of money are taken out and transferred? And I think that they do a lot of that. I think a lot of the clerks or tellers in these institutions, if they see large transfers or someone coming in taking out a large transfer that's not normal for them, they usually start to question them. But with these romance scams and other types of scams, it is very difficult to convince people that this really is a scam. It is probably one of the most difficult things to do. So those are the two questions we have. I'm going to share a screen with all the resources that that Lenore mentioned.
Yeah, I just wanted to add one more thing. A lot of people are talking about AI. Well, scammers are using AI to fake voices and videos. So that's another, that each year there are new challenges and new ways to protect, ourselves from romance, any kind of scam.
Lenore mentioned a number, I guess I was on mute. Lenore had mentioned a number of resources that you should report to. Unless people report, then then people don't know about them and can't protect us from them. Better Business Bureau is one, but these are articles from a number of different places. Because there is just so much of this out there. They really there's been a lot of articles printed from both AARP, the Federal Trade Commission, the FBI, Consumer Reports, and then there's also some videos to watch to hear the stories firsthand from people who have been victimized by this scam. Is really powerful. And so there's a number of resources, videos here that you can click into and watch. Back to you, Lenore.
Well, I see what are recommended, Janice is asking what are recommended questions to ask when entering into conversations with potential person for relationship. Well, going back to Denise, she asked about all the bank withdrawals. And I think she also asked, gee, you said you lived around here, yet you're always away. Where do you live? Where are you from? Get to know a little bit about the person up front, engage them in conversation. If they're elusive, that's not a path. This is not a person or, a scammer that you want to get involved with.
To prevent yourself from being victimized by any type of scam, it is more important that you ask more questions than you answer. So I think Janice had a good point here. Ask lots of questions.
Mm-hmm.
If I can weigh in, one of the things that I've noticed, I've been on them, and the websites, and one of the things that a lot of the women that put up their profiles, they explicitly state that they're not going to be in a texting relationship. They want to meet the person almost immediately to make sure that they do exist. They're not going to go down that texting road back and forth where they can possibly be susceptible to a scam. They want to see the person face to face.
Any final comments, either Jim or Lenore?
Well, I would say, in addition to following the red flags, never feel embarrassed. I would always ask trusted friends, family members, gee, I met this great person online. I would really share that. And if it seems like with any of our Fraud Talk Tuesday presentations, if it seems too good to be true, walk away. Well, thank you very much for your great questions.
Yeah. Did we answer that last question from Janice W? What are the recommended questions to ask when entering into conversations? Janice, I would say, as I mentioned a minute ago, meet them. If somebody's too far away, if they're in another state, that's going to be kind of hard to verify who they are. But if there's somebody in state and someone local, meet them for coffee. Meet them somewhere.
And I would ask also, if you don't want it to get to the point of they're asking you to get a gift card. Well, gee, don't you have an account? Can't you get it from one of your own accounts? Really probe, because your antenna should be going up at that point.
Right. That's some place where sometime when you want to say sayonara.
Right.
Looks like Vicki raised her hand. Vicki, we can't hear you because it's a webinar, but if you could put something into the Q&A, we'll respond. I think one of the other things is it's not who you are, it's how you are at the time of encounter. That is crucial, because we hear from in all types of scams. Oh, well, that couldn't happen to me. It can happen to anybody, and it has to do with how you are at the time of encounter. What is your emotional state? For the romance scam and friendship scam, what emotional buttons are they pushing? These people are very, very skilled at doing what they're doing, taking your money.
And one of the biggest, listening to the Surgeon General, loneliness and isolation are one of the biggest issues that we're facing right now, really exacerbated by COVID, but a lot of people are feeling it, and scammers can come in and they recognize, people's vulnerability, sadly, so we have to keep on guard.
So Vicki asked the question, what about video chat versus meeting in person initially for safety?
You could, I wouldn't do it.
No, I mean, they could be using AI.
You don't know if it's actually the person?
If, right, it maybe isn't that, if there's an international criminal gang, it could be anybody, who's in cahoots with,
Right.
with the criminals, yeah.
Right.
And in
You'd have to
terms
meet
of
him at-
personal safety, meeting somebody, I would always do it in a very public place.
Yes, exactly, exactly. And make sure you have plenty of cash on hand if they want you to pay for them. Right?
You should never be doing that, I don't know. No, go Dutch treat.
No, right.
Okay, I think that's for questions. So, final closing, Jim?
You have to go to,
Yep.
you have to go into a
Yep.
relationship with the eyes wide open.
Yep. So
You
good
know.
enough. Thanks for joining us today. And remember, if you can spot a scam, you can stop a scam.
Stop a scam.
Thanks. We'll hope to see you on February 13th when we talk about, as Jim said, tax identity theft and tax preparation scams.
Yep.
Thanks.
Thank you.